Barbara Marx Hubbard has been a close friend for many years. I was delighted that she agreed to provide the interview you're about to hear. Barbara is known for many great accomplishments. She's known as a visionary. Way back in the early 1960s, she started her journey, and she has inspired thousands, if not tens of thousands of people, including people like Jonas Salk and Buckminster Fuller. She is one of the most amazing women I've ever met. In this interview, she is in her 80s, but when you listen to her, you think you're talking to someone in their 40s. She's full of great ideas. She has helped thousands of people, and she will help you.
I think one of the things because it's really such a popular and important idea, is I'm 80 years old. And I feel like I'm totally emergent. I don't feel young and I don't feel old. I am not chronologically specific. Now, the reason is that the source of creation, the impulse of evolution, isn't aging. And the more you say yes to it, the more there is of it to say yes to. And I have coined a word for how I feel, and the word is regenopause. Menopause, you have no more eggs. 50, 60, 70, 80, and on. I think women over 50 are the egg. I think that when we get turned on to that inner spiritual, vital, life purpose, motivation, we start giving birth to the authentic feminine self. I don't believe we've ever seen the embodiment, an integral embodiment of an authentic feminine self yet, because so many of us came up out of having to deal with the patriarchy and our own self-inhibitions, even if we weren't in the patriarchy. But what I'm noticing is that any one of the women that I know who said yes to that inner drive will say to me, I feel different. I have more energy. It doesn't feel like being young. It doesn't feel like being old. It feels like having a vitality I've never seen before. And so I'm wondering whether the evolving feminine is giving birth to a form of feminine where she has to combine her masculine with her feminine, so she becomes whole, integral. And she's always seeking the evolutionary man and men and partners. So it's not a feminist movement. It's an integral movement. It's being whole. And when the woman becomes whole as an authentic, co-creative, feminine co-creator, then she liberates men from their bondage to the patriarchy, because what she really wants of them is co-creativity. If I look out 25 years, I either see that civilization has collapsed, which I don't see, but that certainly is being predicted, or I see an amazing scene of a co-creative humanity. I see that the structures of the hierarchy and the pyramid will have changed to synergistic, co-creative structures, starting with small groups, the rebuilding of community, the building of a synergistic democracy. Our democracy is totally stuck in oppositional form. It can't move. I see that we will use the internet to map, track, and connect what's working. I will see that the inner drive of evolution will be awakening massive creativity of humanity. And if that creativity can connect for people realizing their life purpose, and if women are liberated to be the authentic feminine co-creator, and if science and technology is guided to restore the earth and free us from the deficiency needs, which it could if we shift the military-industrial complex. And I think the alternative to war is conscious evolution. Only conscious evolution is big enough, not peace. Peace is a byproduct. Conscious evolution is taking the genius of everyone and connecting it to fulfilling a larger purpose within synergy. And I think we'll be born into the universe, and we will be a solar system species. We'll probably, by 25 years, we will understood zero-point energy. We'll have a totally different economic system. And I believe that we will be liberated to have life extension. And we'll have chosen birth, chosen reproduction, chosen lifespan, chosen death. And I believe that we probably will find we are not alone in the universe. And that as we become resonant and coherent on this planet, in our own higher intelligence, we will make contact that will be shared. Not just a UFO sighting here or there, but a shared contact with universal beings. Peace through co-creation and conscious evolution, I think it's a byproduct of the liberation of positive creative energy joined. And since nature creates whole systems out of separate parts, and during crises in the past, the way nature jumps crises is by creating new synergistic wholes, like multicellular life or whole vast ecologies. So what people like Elizabeth Sahtouris, the biologist, says, that when a species is young, it overpopulates, pollutes, and fights with itself, and it hits a limit to growth. And if it does not learn cooperation and synergistic symbiosis with its environment, it's extinct. So either we're going to be extinct or we're going to be synergistic. And I think we're going to be synergistic because it's so much more attractive. And I read Abraham Maslow, Toward a Psychology of Being, and he said every happy person has one thing in common: chosen work they find intrinsically self-rewarding. That is, when you do it, you feel good, and of service to at least one other. And I realized I hadn't found my vocation. Vocation is a calling, it's a life purpose, it's your unique creativity. It's the God within you wanting to express. And so in order to find that, which is not so easy, because you don't get it in school, you don't get it in a job, nobody's asking you for your unique life purpose and how do you best give it. That's not ordinarily being asked for. Well, there's some real deep biofeedback. First of all, if you feel depressed, it's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
Because it means there's more to be expressed. If you take the biofeedback of depression, you say, oh, and I go like this, I want to hear, what are you telling me? More wants to be expressed, that this is like an evolutionary driver, the depression. And instead of trying to just accept it or medicate yourself out of it, you ask yourself what wants to be expressed, and then you have to follow what attracts you to express. Whatever it is, working in a garden, going to a school, reading a book, then follow the attraction. But it's not so much the attraction to get as the attraction to give. And I don't mean just giving away, to like charity. I mean giving your gift, which is your creativity. So when you can find what attracts you to express, the depression goes away. And the expression links you up to the source, which is coming through the solar plexus and the emotions. It feels like, oh, I'm onto it. It feels like, if we were on a treasure hunt, you're getting close to the treasure when you get close to what attracts you to give. And then if you keep on going, then you have to reach out to what other people attract you, what books, what classes, until you find somebody who really loves what you have to give. And you really love what they have to give. And then you start co-creation. I feel that sometimes with you. All right, I really want to give a certain form of expression because I found my vocation is a communicator. When I'm communicating to somebody who has some interest in it, I can't be communicating to people who are not interested. But if they are interested, I'm amazed at how happy I get.
Because you're being received.
I'm 80 years old. You'd think I'd get over it. Not at all.
Well, one of the things
I feel, instead of getting older, I'm getting newer. And the newness is your creativity. Because creativity, if it's really creative, is new. And it has no age. And if you are tapping into that source, and I think of it as a divine source in every single person, and you tap into it, it goes up through your emotions, your heart, and you're giving it. It could be simple of caring for a child or making a great invention. It doesn't matter too much the scale of it, but it has to give you that feeling of self-rewarding. When I do this, I know that the treasure is here. You know, a couple of experiences. I loved my children, they were my joy, but they didn't fully tap into my vocation. And motherhood is not everybody's vocation. Motherhood is great, and I was a very full-time mother. But when I got the depression was that I hadn't found that uniqueness that was mine to give. And so I did a lot of reading, and I called up Dr. Maslow and invited him for lunch, and I did this and this and this. But then I finally had an experience, which was a peak experience, and I said, I want to know the story. What on this earth is comparable as a story to the birth of Christ? Think what that one story written down did to the world. Whatever happened there. What is our story that's going to change the world to know it? And immediately I got our story. I got up there like the astronauts. I could feel the Earth as a living system. I was a member of the Earth. The Earth was struggling to coordinate. It was in pain. I felt all the pain of the world, and then for a moment I felt the love on a global scale.
And you were in your 30s or
I was
40s?
about 36.
Mm-hmm.
And then I felt the spiritual inner voice of coming through millions simultaneously. There were healings. And then, Bill, I saw these social innovations connect in health, education, economics, all these new types of caring and healing, new systems. They went like this. It was like a body. And we woke up. I actually believe I had an evolutionary pre-experience of something that is now coming. And one reason I feel so amazingly different than a visionary telling about an experience is I'm living through the experience that I was telling about, because the planet Earth has a crisis now. There are many things emerging, and there is a desire to converge all of that. And 2012 was given as a date, so let's take it. And I feel the happiness, going back to the source, gets more intense as you get closer and closer to giving fully the source within you. And when you get sort of losing where that source is, it's like a sailboat. You have to tack, and you're not always going straight to the point, but you have to tack by the inner feeling of the energy of source, the happiness, the love that you feel when you give it, and the love you feel for others in wanting to assist them to also give their most high potential. You have a base and an overall sense of direction, like mine is as a communicator. But should I be communicating over here or over here? But when you hit it is when you can give the most of your creativity. That's how you know.
And so your experience of happiness is actually increasing.
It's increasing as I get closer and closer to being able to give more of my gift. And not just my personal gift, but the planetary situation, because it is a crisis. When I feel that the whole planet and millions of people might feel giving their gift within the whole, then I get vocationally aroused. And vocational arousal, instead of wanting to have a baby, you get to want to have a birth of not only your own creativity, but as many people as possible. And I actually foresee a time when that creativity in hundreds of millions of people will be aroused. And through internet and social networking and we'll have ways of finding each other, which we're already doing on internet. But it will be a massive liberation of human creativity.
I like it a little bit like if you go to a really great concert, you get into the energy, and everyone else is in the energy.
Yes.
And this is sort of like doing a grand concert on a cosmic scale.
It is.
With hundreds of millions of people.
And instead of only listening to music, your excitement is you're giving from your heart your gift. with others. If you can imagine, Bill, the creativity of the people of Earth, most of it doesn't get expressed. Most of it is locked up in poverty or in relationships or in jobs. But as we move towards this time of, I would say, an opening of the heart on this planet, more and more people will be freed up to give their gift. And I would like to be of help in having systems available, like on internet, so that everybody could say, this is my gift, this is what I'm looking for, this is the partner, so that we could stimulate vocational arousal on a planetary scale. I feel that the same force that created the whole universe, and Earth, and life, and human life, is the force in each of us to express our greater human life. That we're not doing this alone. We're not doing this just as a personal yearning. We're doing this as an expression of the whole force of creation, localized. And the closer you get to expressing it, the more the force of creation can go through you. And that force is, of course, infinite. I think you need certain conditions. First of all, if you're starving in a war zone, in an earthquake, very few people can do it. When you have basic needs relatively stable, that doesn't mean you have to have a lot, but you have to have enough, then you need to have some encouragement that you are precious, that what you have to give is needed. And you need some models of people who are expressing it. And one of the keys is that somebody can see who you really are. Somebody can notice your own creativity that you could be inspired by. So you need some cultivation for that to happen spontaneously. But I have found that I had to reach out to others that attracted me to find out what it was that my gift is. Usually, you need the interactions. You have to reach out. It's hard to do it, and you need to reach out where you're not just being rebuffed. Like, I lived in Lakeville, Connecticut when I was first getting my vocation, and people would say, "How are you, Barbara?" And I get all enthusiastic, and I tell them, "Well, 14 billion years ago, this," and then finally they said, "I don't want to know how you are, Barbara," because I was too enthusiastic. And so you have to go where you're wanted. You have to find where what you have to give is needed. So I call this social pioneering. It's not obvious. And I like the phrase pioneer, because not everybody is a pioneer, but if there weren't pioneers, we wouldn't have crossed this country. So somebody willing to do this, to find their way, is pioneering for a lot of other people. So let's say I, as a housewife in Lakeville, was able to find this, and then I can communicate it, then maybe I can help others, because I'm standing on the shoulders of people who went before me. So we need each other in this. We really do.